Okay, let's go ahead, bring to order this special meeting of Templeton Community Services District Board of Directors. Today is Sunday, July 6th, 6 p.m. Roll call, please.
Directors Hardonish,
Here.
Logan,
Here.
Mortensen,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
and Tyrone.
Here.
Yeah, everyone's present. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. Chief Peterson, can you do us the honor and lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. And ready to begin, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Okay, order of business, we only have one item on here, so we could skip that. Business, before we get to this item, I know we all have a lot of thoughts and emotions, feelings about what's happening, but tonight, let's just stick with this item. There will be plenty of time to discuss this. We will bring this item, with different, in a different format, we'll bring the item to discuss what's happening. But tonight, we would just want to talk about the emergency budget amendment because we want to get our staff back out there. They have important work to do. So, General Manager.
Yes, thank you much. First, thank you all for being available on short notice tonight. Let me bring up that policy item. I want to just tell you why we're here and why we're here on sort of short notice. And that's because our purchasing policy does allow for emergency expenditures under my authorization. And I'll go into why we're spending more money than we had budgeted for the incident. But it's a strict interpretation of the policy would limit my authority to $50,000. And by midday yesterday, we realized that we were gonna run out of that quickly. And so we called this meeting for that reason. And maybe it's a reason to revisit this policy at some point in the future. If you were not available, if we could not get a quorum tonight, I'd be violating the policy. Anyway, so that's really why we're here and why we're here on short notice. What you can yeah, you're good. Thank you. So I think everyone's aware of what occurred on the 4th, Friday, around 11 o'clock. We had a large structure fire start at the Feed and Grain, and we responded. And we have agreements in place through mutual and automatic aid to get assistance for for fires in town. And those resources came willingly and were put to immediate use. The fire was very large. I'm sure you've seen plenty of videos, and some of you saw it yourself. The mutual aid agreement, and I'll try not to butcher this, and so Tom Peterson can correct me if I have this wrong, but essentially means that the folks that have agreed to help us when we need them will provide resources for up to 12 hours. So around 11 o'clock Saturday morning, we were at the 12-hour mark, and we still had considerable fire in the building. We had flames that were, originating from 60 or 70 feet up in the structure. And as you know, we don't necessarily, we neither have the equipment ourselves to treat that kind of fire directly or that kind of height directly, nor enough equipment or manpower to handle even what was existing midday Saturday. So we made the decision to keep many of those resources beyond the 12-hour mark. So on the fire front, what that meant was one of three things. One, if we weren't willing to pay for those services, those agencies they may have needed to leave the incident and left us in a problem. The other two options was to enter into another type of arrangement where we would pay for the resources that we needed through either a sort of a standard statewide mutual aid arrangement that's administered through Cal OES, the same way that we contribute to out-of-county assignments. We call them out-of-county assignments, but they could occur here within the county and be on the hook for those costs through that arrangement. It's sort of a standardized approach. Or come up with something that was a little different with our partners at the time. That was City of Atascadero, City of Paso Robles, and City of San Luis Obispo all had resources here at that moment. Ladder trucks and crews and others. So it became pretty quickly, we kind of did some quick math and realized that, hey, the costs are gonna get, we're gonna start incurring costs, or we're gonna have costs that exceed the $50,000 limit pretty quickly, and made the decision to call this meeting. We have other costs as well. So we're incurring costs now, outside costs or costs that were unbudgeted, even as we speak. We've actually, fortunately, we were able to let some of those resources, or more than half of those resources, go late yesterday. So 2 of the 3 ladder trucks that were here from early in the incident through yesterday left yesterday afternoon and yesterday evening, and we've only had 1 ladder truck and crew here since. But that truck is needed. We still have an active fire in the building. It's not nearly as exciting looking as it was, but it's there and smoldering, and you can observe it. So my estimate of the cost, and again, this is just back of the napkin kind of math, and that's why I didn't pass this out, for the ladder. Again, we had all three were here beyond the 12 hours, so we're on the hook from hour 1 through their return home. Those engines, if under sort of the optimistic case, that's gonna be about $51,000. Not a worst case scenario, but if the 1 ladder truck, and it might be swapped out, I think tomorrow anyway, but if we have to have a ladder truck beyond tomorrow, that's not a worst case scenario, but it's a higher cost. It might be as high as about $63,000. We're on the hook for the cost of the engine and the staffing at the OES rates, but without the cost of Cali's service program or the city's administrative costs. So more or less their direct costs, but at the OES rates. And that's something we've already agreed to. I already agreed to. We've also been employing some battalion chief to help from the City of Paso Robles and the City of Atascadero fire departments to help with the 24-hour coverage on the incident. That's I've got some cost estimates of like $5,000 to $8,000 for that coverage, and that number may be a little.
It's gonna go down. Just to add to it, we're stopping that tonight at 8.
Yeah,
and our captain is the on-duty captain will take over that for the evening. I'll be back.
So those are we have a few other kind of pretty direct costs for fire. We're providing meals for the on-duty who's ever here at mealtime or whatever. Actually, we haven't been invoiced for those, and there's some, maybe some of this is gonna end up being donated, but I estimate that's gonna be between $1,500 and $3,000, and it could go up if the incident lasts longer. And then we brought in a structural engineer. I don't have a great estimate for those costs, but between, depends on how much more we're gonna need help, but maybe between $2,500 and $7,000 for those costs. That we're really fortunate to be able to find somebody on super short notice who had familiarity with the building, and I think that's given our team more confidence about the approach. And if you have been watching, the building was more resilient than any of us would have pictured. I thought it would blow over, and it's
tough.
Sturdy. Anyway, so that's on the direct fire side. As all of you know, we had some other challenges. The fire had a huge water demand overnight on Friday night into Saturday morning, and we have a great water system, but every system has its limits, and we approached its limits. I think I understood maybe between 6,000 and 7,000 gallons a minute were being put on the fire for.
We recalculated this morning, and it was closer to 9,000 gallons a minute at one point for about 5 or 6 hours.
So a lot of water went on the fire. We have a system that, that's based on the depth of the tanks and it activates our wells. And so that all occurred as planned, as expected. But, the system, we couldn't replenish the tanks fast enough. We were producing, I think, about 2,200 gallons a minute. Again, you know that we have some water resources that are not operable right now. That hurt us a little bit. So early Saturday morning, we got concerned about the water supply, not necessarily water for the fire. We still had perhaps 1 million gallons of water in storage at that moment. But certain parts of the community have lower water pressure, and it's really critical that we keep pressurized water in the water system for health and safety reasons for the rest of the community. We cannot run the system dry to put a fire out without causing other significant concerns. We took several steps that proved effective, but one of which was we made contact with the city of Paso Robles, and we tied into their system and tied into our system through kind of a temporary emergency measure. They were super cooperative, but there's a cost of that's probably somewhere around $9,500 to the city of Paso Robles so far. I don't think we'll need to continue that, but you know, it could go up if we did. And that's just again, very back of the napkin math, very over text quotes. We don't have a formal arrangement in place, so we don't know what those costs are going to be. We also brought in quite a few of our own utility crew members to assist with that effort and to ensure we had sufficient pressures elsewhere in town and monitor that was active for about 12 hours. So somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,200 to $1,500 on our team. So it's been sort of a complete, sort of district-wide, all hands on deck effort to get us from Friday night to now. We had Parks and Rec team members setting up shade for the folks working the traffic control. Everybody's been involved. So we also incurred a little bit of legal expense. I don't have a ton of that estimated, under 1,000, and it depends on how much more legal help we might need. So all told, if things go really well, and just so you're all aware, and again, I don't want to get into like all the ifs, ands, and buts. We have an active scene. We still have fire in multiple locations right now, but the goal this afternoon and likely early tomorrow is to demolish the portions of the structure that are hazardous to the point where we become less concerned about another building or folks across from Main Street being impacted, and to be able to put the fire out. So if that goes well, we're looking at about $75,000 in costs that we do not have in our budget. If it takes longer, this gets into Tuesday, it's more like $110,000. And again, that's really having to keep more people here longer, keeping that ladder truck, those resources longer. That's again, very back of the napkin math. And it's slow going. I mean, it's slow going for for anyone who's watching the demo. Really, we'll see if the strategy works. There's a sturdy structure. It's been interesting. Anyways, so what I've listed again. So I think we're in it for about $75,000 if things end. Most everything can be over by tomorrow, and more like 110 if this stretches out a couple more days. I've drafted a recommendation that goes beyond that, because I don't want to have to try to call you back in here, nor do I want to be in a spot where we run out of those resources and we don't have a community that's safe yet. Right now, that block of Main Street, we cannot allow most of those businesses to open until we make more progress on the structure, get the risk reduced, and get the fire out. And that's a day or two away, and maybe longer if things go more slowly. So my recommendation was, and I'll just read this because you haven't had a chance to look at this in advance, is that the board of directors by motion authorize a budget amendment of up to $150,000, and that's a combined figure for the fire fund, the water fund, and the administration fund to cover expenses associated with the Templeton Feed and Grain Fire. Confirm and ratify the agreements and the arrangements entered into by the general manager and or his designee that were and will be needed to put the fire out and mitigate the risks therefrom, and further, that once the actual costs are known and accounted for, that this item be brought back with specific amounts for each fund and line item. Yeah, that gets, I know this is the boring part, this is the math part, but that gets us to compliance with how, if this is approved, gets us compliance with our policy. We know that you have lots of questions and want a lot more information about what happened both with the water system and with the fire and all that. And we're prepared to bring all that information to you, you know, once the fire is out and the current emergency is over.
So I have a question, because I understand the need to keep some of these, all of this accounting separate. So that in the event that whomever is responsible for starting this fire is apprehended and convicted, I would hope that we would be able to recover these expenses. So my question is for the firefighters, I know you're probably incurring overtime as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So is.
I have an estimate of that too, I didn't go over
Okay.
it.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that is captured, that all expenses related to this, and even if there's anyone in the utility department, then everything.
We will be able to segregate expenses associated with this incident, including, you know, including our own expenses, our own crew costs, our own, we'll be able to segregate those costs. And I'd like to, I think our strategy or my direction has been, you know, there's a lot of talk about, can we go after, can we recover these funds? What are our approach gonna be? Really, maybe we can, and maybe there'll be other alternatives. But the actions that we need to take to put the fire out and mitigate the risk of the public are not dependent on how we're gonna get those
I understand
funds.
that, I understand that. I just want to make sure that we segregate all these costs and that they're known. And I'd actually like to have them brought back to the board at some point in the future so that we know exactly. But as long as the overtime is actually being captured for the purpose of this fire separately as well.
Yeah, it will be. I mean,
Okay.
we've devoted essentially 100% of our efforts since Friday night to this incident. And as a matter of fact, yesterday, or maybe since the time of the incident started through yesterday, we were not even responding to our own calls. All the resources were on the one.
We've had approximately 7 or 8 calls outside of this incident that we've asked county fire to help us with. And keep in mind, this has created some fairly significant response delays that could affect us also. So there have been people where we've had medical calls, and instead of us being there within 4 to 6 minutes, we're talking 10 to 15 minutes now.
But we've resumed covering our standard, our normal 911 calls.
I understand you're probably stretched very thin,
Extremely.
so I understand that. And I appreciate everything that you and all the firefighters are doing. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? I'm gonna go to the public. I see a couple of public members. Any questions from the public? Okay, I'll come back, okay, to the board. Yeah, I know you mentioned the cost recovery and you mentioned looking at the person, maybe that caused the problem, but also even the owners of Templeton Feed and Grain, and because
they have no insurance from what I
yeah,
understand.
so
But I'm looking at
so, yeah,
whomever,
so,
I mean, this
yeah.
is an act of
And I don't know
honesty.
what the standard is, I don't know normally what the standard is in terms of going, for cost recovery, from the owners of the fire, when you could, whether if they have insurance or don't have insurance, I have no idea, and that would be something that would be.
I
have to
think
And I'm,
be
that's-
discussed.
I'm more than happy to put together how we go about that typically and present that to the
Yeah.
board at a later time.
Yeah, that's definitely the thing that we need to discuss, because this is gonna be devastating to our fire department, this cost, if we don't somehow recover it, I don't know what's gonna happen, I mean.
And maybe perhaps that's something that legal can actually do some research on as well, to say, in the situation where we have an arson who is apprehended, if it's an adolescent, you usually can go after the parents. But, there's gotta be some way of recovering some of these costs if the persons responsible for this fire are apprehended and convicted. And I would hope that we would be able to do that, but I think it's probably a question for legal.
I think it's really early to speculate some of those things right now. I know there's plenty of rumors out there and videos and things like that. The investigation
Understood, but I
is not
think we
complete.
just need to be prepared.
We'll have the accounting complete and we'll obviously follow the investigation and try to explore all the alternatives available. I just wanna, just so you know, keep in mind, we're not the only agency we're not the only party that's gonna be damaged in this case. We've got the property that's obviously experienced really extensive damages. And if it were my kid who caused this and I carry $1 million umbrella policy, well, $1 million does not go very far for the incident that we're faced with. So I just, while I think we should be aggressive and take any opportunity we can, I don't think you should make this decision on the basis that you're going to get. the
That's
cost
that's not what, I'm fully supportive of this recommendation, so that's not the issue. But I do notice that one of the costs that you've not mentioned is the sheriff, and I know the sheriff was there as well.
There's no cost recovery from the sheriff.
So there's no cost to the district for that.
The sheriff and the highway patrol have handled the street closures and as part of their normal
Okay.
duties. No, we're not gonna be billed for those.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm fully supportive of this.
I have no objections. Yeah, I'm really supportive, and again, I'd like to thank fire department and all the firefighters for what they've done. It's times like this, we really appreciate it. Most of the time, we don't even think about it, but sitting up on the hill last night watching the fire and praying, glad there was no wind. We would have really. Also, I'd like to thank the utility department. I know they worked hard. They're usually not even thought about, so thank you for all you do. Anyway, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommendation read by the general.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Directors Peterson,
Aye.
Logan,
Aye.
Mortensen,
Aye.
Tyrone. Aye. And Fredonish.
Aye. Okay, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, and we'll get you a briefing on the incident and some of the challenges and some more facts as soon as we can. Again, right now, all of the resources are really still unseen.
Understood. I mean, that's a priority.
I would back on each side, like, it would be nice to have at least a cost breakdown of what each department,
We will, because I'll need that, I'm gonna bring it back formally because you'll need to.
Yes.
Right now, we got a sort of big blanket approval, right, but not tied to the direct costs. And so we'll do a full accounting for you. And it'll come back as an action item. And then again, I know you'll have items related to this incident in the coming weeks. And we've got obviously a lot of concerned citizens and whatnot. It's been a tough weekend.
I know,
I hope they move faster than what I watched for the last 3 hours over there.
Who moves faster?
Demolition.
Oh,
Well, we're trying to be as safe as possible.
I understand.
That's-
I'm
that's,
just saying for the sake of the money, not,
Well, the demolition, that's not on our dime.
I know that.
Yeah, so that's.
But it is as far as till they get to the point where the fire.
Correct. We have to wait for the demolition to get to a point to be able to extinguish the remaining fire, but yeah, to a degree, we're at that mercy. But to a degree, I'm also driving the pace of the demolition because I don't want to get anybody hurt.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
yeah,
everyone
that's
hurts.
the most important thing. Yeah. It's definitely number one.
Alright, well, thank you, chief. Please thank all the firefighters, including all from all the other jurisdiction. It was just an amazing sight to see how everyone just came together to try to put that fire out from San Luis, Tascadero, Paso Robles, you know, I mean, I can't believe how much water they were putting on that fire. It was just incredible to see.
Well, it's incredible for as large as it went, that it did not
Yes.
spread. That's what's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, we were talking, you managed to save Jack's Restaurant right next door. I mean,
Yeah.
embers were flying right over onto that restaurant.
We had a small roof fire on top of Jack's. We extinguished that. We had embers flying out behind it into the field. Had 3 engines plus our utility, our UTV back there, extinguishing small brush fires. And so, yeah, it was, the ember cast, as Director Peterson said, was significant. And there was a decent wind that on that upper level that was blowing a lot of embers that.
I could hear the fire cracking from my back patio.
With building coming down, hear that?
I mean, it was scary to just watch and hear it. Yeah, so I mean, I thought about you guys being out in front of
Yeah,
that.
it was sad. But yeah, my thought was like, you guys be safe, so I'm glad everyone's safe, there's no injury or anything like that. But thank you, appreciate it, thanks for all your hard work, thank you, Justin, as well, I know you were there. The Saturday morning was a little bit iffy there, so.
Well, and I do want to thank specifically Justin. He kept in contact with me throughout the night, that first night, and kept me appraised of the water levels. I did, adjust streams based on kind of where we were at. But as I mentioned to him, every time I turned a master stream off, the fire would just take off. Sorry, my voice is a little gone.
It was a teamwork effort, so yeah, thank you, and then also general manager, Carrie, everyone. Been involved for the last few days, so thank you guys. Okay, meeting adjourned, thank you.
I think